What's up, guys? It's your boy RJ here, back today with another video. And this is going to be interesting because we're going to hyper-focus on a singular review of a game. I'm talking about Mixtape, which got a 10 out of 10 from IGN, which I found very peculiar and odd. But by the time we're done with this video, you're going to understand that these woke liberals that run IGN clearly have an agenda. And I hope you see it my way by the time we're done. So please remember to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's jump right into it. So first and foremost, what is Mixtape? So Mixtape essentially is a game where, and I use the word game loosely, where basically you're a trio of teenagers and like there's a little bit of like lesbianism going on in there and LGBTQ stuff going on in there, and which isn't a problem necessarily, except for the fact that the story is boring, okay? And the game is woke, and it's garbage. And IGN gave it a 10. And we're going to dissect who did it and why they did it soon. But to further explain what this game does, there's even a scene where it's two tongues grappling each other, making out. Keep in mind, these are minors. Very not cool. And also forcing the LGBTQ propaganda straight into a game that's setting is in the 90s. That alone wouldn't be a problem if the game was good. But again, wokeness in a video game is exemplified when the rest of the game sucks. Okay? And when we talk about the rest of the game, let's talk about this gameplay, supposed gameplay. Where you actually control and move the character, it's boring, linear, basically walking around sections, essentially. Not fun at all. And then when the game actually picks up steam where you're doing things, you could completely fail to, like, you know, you ride a skateboard and jump over something or duck something, you hit it and move on. Your character keeps moving, auto-scrolling style. Very boring. Now, you could sit here and say, well, RJ, you played As Dusk Falls. Yes, but here's the other key difference, and this is one of the reasons why the story's boring. It's basically no choices. At least As Dusk Falls had choices. It was definitely closer to an interactive movie, but you had options about what you were going to do with your character. The dialogue you spoke more. The choices you made. This game's telling a very specific woke narrative that it wants to beat in your head. You guys could go to YouTube and just watch the game. You really won't miss out much versus just playing the game if you really wanted to be completely frank and honest with you. So that is awful, okay? I think that's a terrible idea for a game to begin with, to make it woke, to make the story not that interesting, and then also having a whole shitload of copyrighted music in there, so streamers can't really stream the game because YouTube, even though you're transformed into content, and even though you can find full songs straight on YouTube, apparently if you play music somehow, and you're trying to be transformative, your video gets taken down. Trust me, I know. So, despite all that, it's not really a good game to stream either, to be completely honest. But the game itself, you know, lacking choices in the story being woke itself, the gameplay being not good, the frame rate's awful, the art style sucks. This game looks like garbage, like a 3 out of 10 garbage game, like a 0 out of 10 maybe garbage game. But IGN, despite that, gave it a 10. Now, on Metacritic, it's an 85. The critics are eating the shit up, to a degree. Okay? So it's not just IGN. But I'm going to use IGN as the poster child here, because how often have we seen IGN put out game scores this year, and we scratch our heads and go, really? You're going to rate that below that? Well, I'll give you some examples. So, Incredible Versus came out April 29th. Got a 70 from IGN. 7 out of 10, 70. We'll do the 100-point scale. On Metacritic, a 76. It's 6 points lower than the Metacritic. Mixtape is 15 points higher than the Metacritic for the PS5 version. So let's keep that in mind as we're going along. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Empire City got a 50 from IGN. It's a 13 on Metacritic. That's down 13 points. Alright. Tides of Tomorrow got a 70. Metacritic was a 71. That's down a point. Soros got a 70 on IGN and an 87 on Metacritic. It's down 17 points from the Metacritic average. So Mixtape is 15 points above, and Soros is 17 points below. Keep in mind, Soros is an 87 overall, and Mixtape is an 85 overall. And IGN has Soros at a 70 and Mixtape at a 100. Not really that consistent. No one really would believe, honestly, that Mixtape is a better game than Soros. Or a better game than Resident Evil 9. Or a better game than every game that's come out this year so far that's crossed IGN's desk, like Pragmata or Crimson Desert. Diablo 4, Lord of Hatred. That DLC was an 80 on IGN. It's an 84 on Metacritic. 4 points down. So again, they're down on everything except Mixtape. Pokemon Champions. A 60 on IGN. A 67 on Metacritic. It's 7 points down. I haven't found one yet where it's higher on the Metacritic than the IGN. Samson. A 40 on IGN. A 51 on Metacritic. 11 points down. I'm literally just going down the line of recent releases. Tomodachi Life, Living the Dream. 70 on IGN. 78 on Metacritic. It's 8 points down. Replaced, 70 on IGN. 76 on Metacritic. It's 6 points lower. But remember, Mixtape is 15 points higher. So if you want to say IGN's a really hard grading scale, why does it apply to everybody but Mixtape? I'll get to that in a second. Mouse PI for hire. This is egregious. Mouse PI for hire, a 60 on IGN, an 81 on Metacritic. It is 21 points lower on IGN. Pragmata, an 80 on their website. And Metacritic's an 85. It's 5 points down. And they believe it's 20 points worse than Mixtape. How do you figure this? Until you get to Life is Strange Reunion and Super Meat Boy 3D, those are higher than the Metacritic average. Okay? And of course, Marathon's higher than the Metacritic average. No surprise there. Darwin's Paradox is lower. Crimson Desert was a 60 on IGN. The Metacritic was a 77. That's 17 points down. Super Mario Bros. Wonder Switch 2 Edition Meetup in Bell Bell Park. 80 on IGN. 85 on Metacritic. That's 5 points down. Mega Man Legacy Collection was dead on. 80 across the board. MLB The Show 26. We play it all the time. 60 on IGN, 71 on Metacritic. That's 11 points down. For real. This is unacceptable. It's just continuous. Over and over and over again, you see this trend. So then you might be saying, okay, well, IGN clearly has a problem, right? Inconsistent scores. Well, remember, different people review different games. So, why don't we go straight to the source? Who was the reviewer of Mixtape? It was a guy named Simon Candy. So, if you go to Simon Candy's page, what has he reviewed? Well, surprise, surprise, he mostly doesn't review games. He reviews movies. He even reviewed WrestleMania. We'll get into some of those reviews in a second. But Mixtape isn't really a game, is it? It's more of an interactive, somewhat interactive movie. And so they put this guy on it. Somebody that's not as well-versed reviewing games. So let's see what he reviewed game-wise on here we can scrounge up. Well, he reviewed Battlefield 6 and gave it a 5. So he gave Battlefield 6, one of the most popular games of last year, a 5. And he gave Mixtape a 10. He gave Call of Duty Black Ops 6, or 7, a 6. So he thought Black Ops 7 was better than Battlefield 6. Does that sound like a majority opinion last year? I don't believe so. Right? What else we got? He gave Marvel Spider-Man 2, a game I absolutely freaking adored, an 8. An 8. He gave Spider-Man 2 an 8. And he gives Mixtape a 10. You've got to be kidding me. Now, again, he hasn't done a whole lot of games, but he does do a lot of, like, movies and TV shows. Let's go over some of those reviews very briefly, shall we? He was a fan of Last of Us Season 2, which we know for a fact was woke as shit compared to Season 1. Not a good look. And then he also rated WrestleMania 42, that piece of shit WrestleMania Night 1 part, a 7. Are you kidding me? Are you blind, motherfucker? But anyway, other than being, potentially and likely a woke lunatic, why else would Simon Cardy give this game a 10? Well, how about this little news story that broke? The dev behind Mixtape bribed game reviewers for positive ratings. If you look, Captain Dingleberry from DualShockers stated they all got codes, but he failed to mention that they all got box sets with them. IGN's review was tainted by a box set bribe. You got a 90s style headphones, a CD player, among other items. And they did it to a bunch of influencers and reviewers. They sent out a bunch of neat, nice little goodies that shouldn't have been accepted by any reputable publication because that's a form of bribery. Okay? I don't believe IGN has acted with integrity, in my opinion. Allegedly. And so, with that being said, I rest my case. This is bullshit. IGN, do better. Be more transparent with how you come up with your reviews. How they typically do it is, the person writes the review, they submit it to a superior, and then based on the words that were written, a score is assigned to that review, and they say, does that sound like an X to you, a 10 to you, or a 9 to you? And they'll say yay or nay. Used to be, at IGN years ago, if you wanted to give a game a 10, you sat down with a handful of people and really convinced everybody there at the table to say, okay, you can give it a 10. It used to be rare to give out 10s. 10s should only be given to the games that are truly, truly some of the absolute fucking greatest of all time. And again, it's not just IGN with these imbalanced, weird scores that make no sense. If Mixtape's a 10, what's Grand Theft Auto 6? What's that going to be? You're going to tell me with a straight face when IGN gives that game a 9? That's worse than Mixtape? There ain't no fucking way. There ain't no way Resident Evil Requiem's worse than Mixtape, or Pragmata, or Soros. And I just went through all those Metacritic scores where there's such a differential where most of the games are lower than the Metacritic average. Except this one. This one is way higher than the Metacritic average. And then you dig deeper and you're like, this guy's accepting gifts, or IGN and other editors that are giving it a 100 score, they're accepting these goodies and these gifts. And you realize just how corrupt the game industry really is. And these aren't journalists or reviewers. They're no better than me or you giving an opinion. In fact, most of the time, they're worse. They're worse. Because they can't be honest and shoot it from the hip and tell it like it is. They're dishonest fucks. And this guy in particular rating games like Spider-Man 2 and 8, but Mixtape a 10, I can't live in a world and reconcile that. I can't wrap my head on that. Even if I played Mixtape and liked it, how does a 3-hour game that's more like an interactive movie better than a Spider-Man 2 that's fucking fantastic? And it's like an interactive movie in of itself. Plus awesome gameplay. Somebody help me, please. But anyway, that's it for now, guys. What do you think in the comments below? Let me know. This is your boy RJ signing out. Have a good one.